be back.
The Terminator, the 1984 flick that didn't just turn Arnold Schwarzenegger into the ultimate action icon, but also proved that James Cameron could take a fever dream and turn it into cinematic gold. This movie, with its relentless pace and simmering sense of dread, became a cultural juggernaut, kicking off a franchise that, much like its unstoppable antagonist, refuses to die, although nowadays some might want it to. So let's slice through the film's production, score, plot and performances and start unpacking the franchise it spawned. Because if the Terminator taught us anything, it's that the future is inevitable, whether you're ready for it or not. The story of this movie begins not in a plush Hollywood office in James Cameron's sickbed. After staggering away from Piranha 2, The Spawning, a cinematic catastrophe that flopped harder than a fish out of water, Cameron found himself bedridden with a fever. Most people would use this time to rest, but not Cameron. No, he dreamt of a metal skeleton emerging from the flames. Instead of dismissing this as a feverish nightmare, as any sane person might, he turned it into a script. Yes, the entire Terminator franchise exists because of a bad case of the flu, a fact that might explain some of the more inventive plot twists in the sequels. Selling this fever dream to Hollywood wasn't exactly a walk in the park. In a move that can only be described as bold, or perhaps desperate, Cameron sold the rights to his script for the princely sum of $1, on the condition that he could direct it. It was a gamble that paid off big time, allowing him to create the film exactly as he envisioned, dark, dystopian, working on a budget that wouldn't even cover the coffee break for today's blockbusters. Sometimes constraints are the mother of invention, and Cameron's shoestring budget forced him to get creative in ways that would define his entire career. So with a budget that could barely buy lunch on a Marvel set, Cameron had to get resourceful. The special effects? Think more DIY garage project than cutting-edge Hollywood magic. With heavy reliance on stop-motion, miniatures and practical effects, this wasn't the shiny, polished future of sleek spaceships and chrome cities. It was gritty, raw and eerily believable. Ironically, these very limitations gave the film its unique edge, a sense of urgency and reality that a bigger budget might have polished away. Terrifying visuals, particularly the iconic endoskeleton, were brought to life by the legendary Stan Winston and his team. They crafted the Terminator's menacing appearance, using a mix of animatronics and puppetry, with notable contributions from Gene Warren Jr. and his team at Fantasy 2 Film Effects, who handled all of the miniature and stop-motion sequences. The scene where the Terminator's flesh burns away to reveal the metallic skeleton underneath is a standout moment, showcasing the film's commitment to practical effects, and setting a high bar for sci-fi visuals in the years to come. And then there's the casting, a saga worthy of its own film. Arnold Schwarzenegger, originally considered for the role of Kyle Reese, a choice that becomes more absurd the longer you think about it, was wisely shifted to play the Terminator, with minimal dialogue and maximum physical presence. In fact, Arnie only has a total of 17 lines in the entire film. Meanwhile, Lance Henriksen, originally tapped to play the Terminator, was reassigned to the role of Detective Vukovich, where his intense stare could be used for good. Behind the scenes, the drama was as intense as the on-screen action. The film features not one, but two of Cameron's future wives. Gail Ann Hurd, the film's producer, would marry Cameron shortly after its release. And then there's Linda Hamilton, the indomitable Sarah Connor, who would eventually become Mrs. Cameron No. 4 after they reunited for Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Clearly Cameron's personal and professional lives were as entangled as the timelines in his movies. He's now married to Susie Amos, wife No. 5, who was an actress in Titanic. Talk about keeping it on the set. The score for The Terminator is as iconic as the film itself, and the story behind its creation only adds to its legendary status. Composed by Brad Fiedel in his home studio, a setup that was more makeshift than glamorous, the score was crafted using electronic keyboards, a drum machine, and a synthesizer. Fiedel played nearly every note live, infusing the music with a human element that's both ironic and fitting for a film about machines. The result is a pounding industrial rhythm that mirrors the relentless nature of the Terminator itself. Fiedel's main theme is instantly recognisable, a driving metallic heartbeat that perfectly encapsulates the cold mechanical menace of the film's antagonist. One of the most memorable uses of the score is in the nightclub scene. Where the pulsing synth pop abruptly cuts out as the Terminator makes its entrance, signalling the start of an intense chase. This interplay between music and silence heightens the tension, making every moment more impactful. The sound design, particularly the use of harsh mechanical noises for the Terminator, complements the score, making the film's audio experience as vital to its success as its visual elements. At its core, The Terminator is a chase movie with a twist. Because what's a bit of running away from a murderous cyborg without throwing in some time travel to spice things up? The film opens with the Terminator, a futuristic robot with all the charm of a kitchen appliance, landing in 1984 Los Angeles, and immediately setting about killing every Sarah Connor it can find in the phone book.
Sarah Connor?
Yes?
Efficient, if nothing else, and probably a reason to be unlisted. Meanwhile, Sarah Connor is living a perfectly mundane life, blissfully unaware she's about to become the most hunted woman in LA.
Look at it this way, in 100 years, who's gonna care?
Enter Kyle Reese, soldier from the future, with a job description that reads, "Protect Sarah, stop the Terminator, and try not to terrify her too much in the process." Reese has to explain that not only is a killer robot after her, but that she's destined to give birth to the future saviour of humanity.
Cyborgs don't feel pain. I do. Don't do that.
Because that's exactly what you need to hear when you're just trying to make it through the day. The brilliance of Cameron's script lies in how it keeps the action hurtling forward while slipping in just enough backstory.
Flesh, skin, hair, blood grown for the cyborgs. Pay attention!
There's no time for drawn-out explanations. Reese drops the essentials on the go. The future is a disaster, Skynet is the enemy, and no, there's no easy way out. But one little piece of information that he didn't know is that he's John Connor's father, leaving that little revelation for Sarah to piece together later. As the chase picks up speed, so does the sense of inescapable doom. The Terminator isn't just after Sarah, it's trying to rewrite the future by ensuring John Connor is never born. Each encounter cranks up the tension, leading to a final showdown in a factory where the indestructible machine just won't quit. It's a simple, relentless premise, survive long enough to save the future. But Cameron ensures that every moment feels like a race against time, with Sarah and Reese desperately trying to stay one step ahead of the inevitable. So who's in this thing? Well, Arnie's performance as the Terminator is nothing short of legendary. His portrayal of the cold, unfeeling cyborg assassin is a masterclass in minimalism. Every movement calculated, every stare devoid of emotion. It's the role that turned a bodybuilder into a Hollywood icon and solidified Arnie as the ultimate embodiment of relentless mechanical menace. The contrast between his imposing physique and the character's robotic precision made him the perfect fit for a role that required more presence than dialogue, ensuring that the Terminator would become one of the most iconic characters in cinematic history.
The 45 long slide with laser sighting, the Uzi 9mm, all
You can't do that.
wrong.
Linda Hamilton's Sarah Connor is the film's emotional core. Much like Ripley in Alien, Sarah starts as an ordinary woman thrust into an extraordinary situation. Hamilton's portrayal captures Sarah's evolution from a scared, helpless waitress to a determined, fierce survivor.
Are you saying it's from the future?
One possible future.
Then you're from the future too, is that right?
Setting the stage for her even more grandiose, badass return in Terminator 2. Hamilton's ability to convey vulnerability while slowly unveiling the steel within Sarah made her a relatable yet aspirational figure, and every woman who becomes the ultimate warrior.
Move it, Reese! On your feet, soldier! You're a terminated fucker.
Michael Biehn's Kyle Reese brings a raw vulnerability that balances Arnie's robotic menace. His chemistry with Hamilton gives the film its emotional stakes, making Reese's sacrifice hit even harder. Bienh plays Reese with a haunted intensity that underscores the weight of his mission. He's not just fighting to save Sarah, also to give humanity a fighting chance against an all-powerful machine army. This duality in his character, both protector and tragic hero, adds depth to the film's exploration of fate and survival.
And understand that Terminator is out there. It doesn't feel pity. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever.
About the field generated by a living organism. Nothing dead will go. I didn't build the fucking thing. Okay.
Lance Henriksen and Paul Winfield as the LAPD officers investigating the murders bring a touch of weary realism to the chaos.
The press is going to be short-stroking it all over the place.
Coffee's 2 hours cold.
Mm-hmm. Did you reach the next girl yet?
No, I keep getting an answer machine.
Send a unit.
I put a cigarette out in it. I just called her.
Call her again.
I sent a unit. There's no answer to the door, and the apartment manager's not home.
Call her.
Their performances ground the film, ensuring that even with time-travelling cyborgs, the story feels anchored in reality. Henriksen's steely gaze and Winfield's world-weary pragmatism provide a human counterpoint to the film's more fantastical elements, reminding the audience that at its core, this is a story about ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances. And let's not forget the uncredited appearances that are as much a part of the film's fabric as the leads. Take Jeanette Goldstein, who later became iconic as the tough-as-nails Vasquez in Aliens. Here, she's a blink-and-you'll-miss-it waitress, a small role that feels almost like a precursor to a future collaboration with Cameron. Then there's Bill Paxton, who pops up as a punk right at the start of the film.
Hey, what's wrong with this picture?
Fuck you, asshole!
One of those classic 80s movie thugs who learns the hard way that trying to pick a fight with the Terminator ain't a good idea. The Terminator isn't just a film about a killer robot. It's a meditation on fate, technology, and what it means to be human. At its core, the film grapples with the idea of inevitability, whether the future is set in stone or if we have the power to change it. The time loop at the heart of the story, where John Connor sends his own father back in time, suggests a world where destiny is unchangeable, no matter how hard we try. It's a bleak outlook, but one that resonates with the film's darker themes and keeps audiences questioning the balance between free will and predestination. At the same time, the Terminator is a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked technological advancement. Skynet, the AI that decides humanity is a threat, is the ultimate example of technology running amok, a cautionary tale about what happens when our creations outgrow their creators. In a world increasingly dependent on AI and automation, Terminator feels more relevant than ever, serving as a grim reminder of the potential consequences of playing God. But amidst all the doom and gloom, the film is also about human resilience. Sarah Connor's transformation from an ordinary woman into a fierce warrior reflects the film's belief in the indomitable human spirit. No matter how advanced the machines become, there's something about humanity, its will to survive, its capacity for love, because let's not forget there's a romance in there too, that machines can't replicate or overcome. This theme of human endurance against seemingly insurmountable odds is what gives the film its emotional depth, elevating it beyond a standard action flick. The Terminator didn't just launch a franchise, it redefined the sci-fi action genre. Its portrayal of a dystopian future ruled by machines has become a staple. In many ways, the Terminator did for sci-fi action what Cameron's Aliens did for sci-fi horror. It expanded the possibilities of what these films could achieve, blending high-octane action with deep existential questions. Interestingly, during the troubled production of Aliens, Cameron showed his very sceptical crew, who were actually on strike, a raw cut of the Terminator. The screening was sparsely attended, but those who did show up got a sneak peek at the kind of cinematic magic Cameron was capable of. Magic that would soon make the Terminator a cultural phenomenon. It's ironic, really, that a film destined to become a cornerstone of pop culture was initially met with such indifference on the set of another film that would become iconic in pop culture. The character of the Terminator itself has become a cultural icon, with Schwarzenegger's portrayal cementing his status as a Hollywood legend. The film's success ensured the continuation of its story, leading to sequels that further explored the world Cameron created. And, while some of the later entries in the series may have struggled to live up to the standard set by the first two films, the impact of the Terminator cannot be overstated. It's a film that not only changed the careers of those involved, but also left an indelible mark on the world of cinema. So the Terminator is more than just a film, it's a cultural touchstone that's still kicking nearly 4 decades later. Its genius lies in its tight storytelling, unforgettable performances, and how it squeezes every last drop out of a very, very modest budget. Sure, some parts might feel a bit dated, but those quirks just add to its enduring charm, like a fine wine that's aged with a bit of grit. As the opening chapter in a franchise that would dive headfirst into the themes of fate, free will, and the terrifying potential of technology, the Terminator remains a pillar in the sci-fi genre. Its legacy is clear not only in its sequels, but also in the legions of imitators that have tried and spectacularly failed to capture the same magic. And some of those were even in this franchise. Like the Terminator itself, this film is unstoppable, continuing to influence, entertain, and provoke thought long after its debut. So here's the deal. Much like the Terminator's iconic promise, I'll be back with what many argue is the greatest sequel ever made. Stick around for more takes on how a franchise that started with such promise managed to become a masterclass in what not to do. If you're ready to dive deeper into the world of the Terminator and its lasting impact on sci-fi and culture, hit that subscribe button or the dislike button if you're feeling contrarian. I won't judge. Just make sure you're on board, because the future is coming, whether we're ready for it or just binge watching till the end.